Trail Nation Report starts now.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Tara Talmadge alongside Mike Irwin. And Mike, it's an exciting day. We are finally talking about some Hog baseball. And the Razorbacks are set to take on Texas Tech. As you can see, 7 p.m. is apparently the time when they're supposed to have first pitch in this one. It might be a little bit later, but you can watch it on flowbaseball.com. And by the way, we're going to be talking about the entire lineup in this. But if you guys have any questions that we don't answer, just let us know in the comment section here on Facebook, and we will try to do our best to answer them. But let's get right into it. Zebulon Vermillion is going to be the starting pitcher for Arkansas tonight.
Previously a closer, Arkansas's best closer, and a guy that, a typical closer in the past, a guy that throws a lot of heat, maybe only goes a couple of innings, but he's adjusted to that. They were looking at him last fall as a possible weekend rotation guy, so he pitched a lot in that respect in a lot of fall games, and then we've seen him in a lot of preseason scrimmages. I'm still not convinced that he'll stay there. I think Dave Van Horn has some other guys in mind, that maybe some younger pitchers, especially maybe a freshman or two, that could move into that role later on. But right now, I think he's being very cautious in this opening tournament that they're playing in, trying to go with their best people. And he said Vermillion's our best guy, best option right now. Now, he's made some adjustments. He's developed a wider variety of pitches. But mainly what he said is, I've tried to take the mentality that I have as a closer. I just go out first inning, pretend I'm closing, get through that inning, come back out, second inning, I'm closing. And he said, you just keep doing that until they tell you you're done.
Exactly.
Dave Van Horn has said they're going to protect him a little bit. That is, if he starts struggling after an inning or two or three, they've got other options they can bring in. I mean, this team has a bunch of guys that have started before that could be in long relief. Talking Connor Nolan, people have asked, Connor Nolan and Patrick Wicklander, who were 2 weekend guys last year, aren't in the rotation for this tournament. And like, well, what's going on there? Well, it's not that they're terrible, but I think they've got to show him something better in the preseason than what they've seen. But on the other hand, he needs these options. So you might see Connor Nolan come in. You might see Patrick Wicklander come in. And they got a bunch of other guys.
Yeah, here's a list. Got Patrick Wicklander, Caden Monk, Cole Ramage, Kevin Kopps, just to list a few of the guys that you could possibly see after.
And these aren't any of the new guys. These are just veteran guys that have been around for a long time. You see a lot of lefties in there, 2 lefties in that group. So he's got a lot of options. Ramage, apparently in one of these Zoom meetings, maybe it was Kevin Kopps, one of them told the media that he felt like they could pitch as many as 15 guys on the weekend, and Dave Van Horn came back and said, well, maybe more like 10. But that just shows you the options they have beyond the starting lineup or the starting weekend rotation. And, again, I think that could change. I think Connor Nolan or Patrick Wicklander could move back in there, or you may see a freshman. They've got some freshmen that are pretty good. There's one in particular that they might move into that spot. But I think for right now, he's going with experience.
And by the way, guys, I see a lot of questions in the comment section right now about where you can watch it. And it is on flowbaseball.com, but you do have to pay for, I think it's a month in order to watch it. So just a heads up on that. But let's take a look at some of the guys that we're going to see out on the field today. First off, we're going to talk about Casey Oppitz. He's obviously the catcher for Arkansas. It was a big deal for him to come back for another year after deciding, I don't know exactly really what happened with the draft, but he didn't end up getting drafted. It was shortened, and so that played a major role. And you know what? It worked out for the Razorbacks.
Yeah, I think the major league guys are looking for him to improve at the plate.
Yeah.
He had 302 last year, which is not bad. I think maybe they want a little more out. That was in a shortened season, and he did get off to a good start. He hadn't been hitting that before. He keeps that up, he'll be fine. But we all know why he's back there. It's because of his arm and his ability to throw guys out at second.
Yeah.
He was voted by the Major League Baseball scouts as having the best arm coming into the season. So we know what he can do. Now, the other thing he does is he's been around for so long, he's got Dave Van Horn's trust.
Yeah.
So Van Horn doesn't always have to relay signals into the catcher like he normally would. He will let Oppitz call pitches on his own. So he's really valuable to them. And if he starts hitting, improves at all on what he got, the start he got off to last year, he'll be fine.
Yeah, and he really is a field general out there. I mean, every guy that we've talked to about Casey Oppitz talks about his leadership, and it's one of the reasons he was voted a team captain, so definitely big to have him back out on the field. But let's move on to the next guy. We're going to talk about Colin Smith at first base. You know, there was some debate about him or Brady Slavin's going to be the guy at first.
Yeah, the truth is, I think all other things being equal, Dave Van Horn would like to have Matt Goodheart at first because he's a good defensive first baseman, tall guy, good to handle those high throws that come in at first sometimes. But he injured his shoulder sliding into a base, I think it was the summer of 2019, and he had to have surgery. And they've kind of kept him off first base since then. He's been the DH, and he's been very successful with that. But here's why they want him, because we've been told, and looking at Twitter, it looks like for whatever reason Goodhart's not going to be available today, and it looks like Brady Slavins will take his place as DH. Now let's just say if this would become permanent, if Goodheart would permanently go to first and Slavins takes his place, he was the National Junior College Player of the Year last year, and his numbers were astounding. In 22 games, let me see where I can see his numbers here. It's just unbelievable. I mean, something like 14 home runs, like 47 RBIs, 507 batting average, 14 home runs. That in 22 games last year in junior college. So that shows you what he can do. So if he were able to come close to those numbers as a DH, and you put Goodheart at first with his hitting, then you've just added a lot more power because this guy's a home run hitter too, like Goodheart. You've added a batting average and power to the lineup. So that may happen down the road. But for tonight, the guy that Dave Van Horn was going to start, Colin Smith, will start at first, mainly because of his defense, although he's a good hitter too. He hit .304 last year at East Tennessee State with 7 home runs and 11 steals. So I think they're all right with Goodheart not being in there, but if he comes back, you may see that switch at some point.
Yeah, and by the way, Ashton, I see your question about what happened to Goodheart. We don't know, and honestly, it's not official yet. We haven't actually heard from the university. It's just...
Yeah, that's getting tweeted out by some media people that are down there. So
we'll see what happens with that. Let's talk about some Robert Moore at second base. I mean, this guy, he's so young, but he made such a big impact last year for Arkansas.
Yeah, he came in early. And right out of high school, gave up his senior year in high school to come in early. And he was amazing. I mean, he hit .317 last year in the shortened season, 2 home runs, 17 RBI in just 16 games. He was the National Player of the Week, and I think that's the first time Arkansas has had a freshman that was able to do that. That was the week of February 24th of last year. But he's a tremendous second baseman. Anybody who's ever watched him turn a double play knows that arm from second, as he goes over to second and takes that little toss from the shortstop or the third baseman and turns it back to first. It's just like one motion.
Yep.
And he's so good at that. So, yeah, he's rock solid at second base, one of the best defensive second basemen in college baseball, and a really good hitter.
You remember the glove flip from last season? That was always fun. I wish we could show it to you guys now.
I saw a scrimmage one day when he came over from second. A ball was hit in the hole between short and third, and he came over, all the way over into the infield. It was a dribbler, and got that and threw out a guy trying to score at home.
Jeez.
It was unbelievable.
So, yeah, to say the least, Robert Moore, very good. And so is Jacob Nesbitt, which, he's one of those. We did a baseball special in case anyone didn't have the chance to watch it. I feel like we didn't have a good chance to talk about Jacob Nesbitt, but definitely someone to watch out for.
Well, he's the only guy really in this entire lineup that you probably not going to be able to say he hit 300 this year. He hit about 350 last year. Or 250. That's about where he's at. But he is so good at third base defensively, and that's a position where you've got to have somebody with an arm over there. And he's so good there that I think they'll deal with the fact that he might be a 250 hitter. And that shows you the hitting ability this team has, because every other guy in the lineup, going all the way down to the DH, probably is capable of hitting right at 300 or better.
And by the way, hey, I know we haven't talked about Christian Franklin yet, Jimbo, but we're getting there. So let's talk about Jalen Battles next over at short. McClellan, community college guy. What do you know about him so far, Mike?
Well, I'll look at his numbers in junior college last year. 320, 6 home runs, 6 stolen bases. He's a big guy, 6'2", 205. And the thing that you like about him is he's a tremendous shortstop. Robert Moore has already talked about how much fun it is to work with him. Because the second baseman and the shortstop are kind of interchangeable. They work together all the time on any team. And he said he doesn't let anything get past him. He's a really good infielder. Plus, he can hit, and he can hit for power. I watched him hit some home runs in some of these preseason scrimmages. He's a guy that's capable of hitting off the top of the batter's eye. He can hit it that far. So you're talking about a big kid with power that is a very good shortstop and can hit a lot of home runs and hits for average, too. And
then we've also got Braden Webb. Out in left field is pretty likely a redshirt senior for Arkansas.
I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be in left. They didn't talk a lot about him, but he hit 340 last year.
Yeah, not too bad.
And I don't think you want to move somebody that did that. He's not a power hitter. He hit 1 home run. But he's a good left fielder, and he hits for average. So your outfield is going to be unbelievable. All 3 of those guys in the outfield are capable of hitting over 300.
And he hit leadoff for Arkansas a couple times last season as well. So we'll see what happens with this lineup. But here we go, Jimbo. We're talking about Christian Franklin, which everyone's talking about Christian Franklin this preseason. I feel like we've been hyping him up a lot.
Well, he's just got tremendous speed in the outfield, can run down balls that other guys can't get to. He's got a good arm, so he's very good defensively. Now, he hit 381 last year. I think that led the team. 3 home runs. He just did. When you think about hitting 385 and I'm trying to figure 8 extra base hits in 16 games.
Woo.
I can't read my own writing. I looked up all this because I couldn't remember it all from last year. But he's a really good outfielder. Can hit for power. Can hit for average, and he's considered one of the best outfielders in college baseball. Center fielders for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be fun to watch him this season. And Caden Wallace, probably out there in right field for Arkansas, freshman, but one of the top 25 in the nation, apparently.
Yeah, he's the only freshman Arkansas. Dave Van Horn will start today. He's another big guy, 6 foot, 205. Hit 343 in summer ball last summer before he went to Arkansas. 343 in summer ball. He was involved in one of these home run derbies as a part of one of these summer tournaments he was in. All the top players in the nation are there coming out of high school. And he finished second in the home run derby. Woo. So this guy's got power. He can hit home runs. He can hit for average, and he's a good right fielder. So I don't think Arkansas loses a lot out in right field there. I mean, we know who was out there last year in the power, that was coming out of that position. Well, it's manned by a freshman this year, and they just didn't miss a beat, it doesn't look like.
Hey, Jimbo on here says that Caden Wallace is going to be a sleeper for this season. So
I'm not sure he's even a sleeper.
Yeah.
He's already caught my eye watching him in some of these scrimmages.
And like we already talked about earlier, Matt Goodheart supposed to DH this season, or at least for this opening weekend. We're hearing that he's out, but we'll wait and see.
It's not, apparently, according to the tweet that was sent out, it's not COVID, it's not disciplinary. It could be any one of a number of things, but we'll see how that works out.
So again, this matchup between Arkansas and Texas Tech is supposed to start at 7 p.m. on Flow Baseball or flowsports.com. Either one works. And you do have to sign up for a membership if you want to watch this game and other games this weekend.
Yeah, we're watching the Ole Miss TCU game right now. It's a 4-3 baseball game with Ole Miss on top by a run.
Yeah, and some of these games are running a little long, so we'll see what time Arkansas's game actually starts out. But last thing, I want to get your take, Mike. What do you think about this matchup with Tech?
This is interesting. I mean, Texas Tech's ranked number 3 in the preseason. That doesn't mean a lot because these rankings can be wrong, but they've had a good program for a long time now. Some people that know me know that I grew up out west of Lubbock, And I still have a lot of friends in that area that have been Tech fans since they were little kiddies. And one of them in particular, I was talking to him about this matchup, and he said that the guy that Tech was going to start in this game, their best pitcher, is out.
Ooh.
So Arkansas apparently dodged a bullet. He got some kind of a preseason injury, and he may be out for the year. They don't know for sure. But so Arkansas apparently is not going to face whoever their number one guy was supposed to be. And Dave Van Horn made a big deal out of the fact that as good as defensively as Arkansas is, as good at the plate as they are, you know, and they were 8th in one preseason poll, but they're down 10th, 11th, 12th in some of these. And why is that? He said because a lot of these teams that are above us return at least 2, and in some cases 3 of their starting rotation last year, their weekend rotation, whereas we don't. They know.
Yeah.
He's been very public about the fact that he was looking for a new rotation. He just, it was wide open. And because of that, he feels like that Arkansas didn't get ranked as high. But that's what you're going to run into in the SEC this year. You're going to face a lot of teams that have at least 2 guys back from last year, maybe a Friday or a Saturday starter or a Saturday or Sunday. And Arkansas is clearly not going to have that. The only guy this weekend that's in the rotation for this series that was a starter last year wasn't a starter at Arkansas. Lyle Lockhart was at Houston. And the other 2, as we've mentioned, Zebulon Vermillion was your closer. And then Peyton Paulette pitched totally out of the bullpen last year.
Yeah.
Now, he was impressive. He had a 1.59 ERA, but he only had 4 appearances. It was a short season. The thing that's impressive about Paulette, an Arkansas kid, is that when he came here last year, he was throwing about 91 and was really effective doing that. Now he's up past 95, and they say that extra velocity plus a wider variety of pitches just made him nasty in the preseason. And Van Horn, if you read between the lines when he's talking about who's going to start, who's going to be in the rotation, he's the one guy you think, based on the way Van Horn talks about it, he may be there. I'm not sure about the other 2. I still think there could be some changes in the weekend rotation.
I'd agree with that as well. So we'll see how this season kind of shakes out. I think this weekend will definitely give us some insight. Because honestly, we haven't really had a good chance to see a lot of this team, honestly. I mean, you've actually been to more scrimmages than I have this season.
Yeah, the COVID thing is tough. Although they've let us go out there and watch these guys some. But I haven't. They've had scrimmages on my days off.
Right.
I didn't go out there, especially with. And then lately, it's all been indoors. That's the other thing we haven't talked about is, yes, they've got that marvelous indoor facility, and thank goodness they had it. Or I don't know, I guess they'd have been over at the football indoor.
Maybe.
I've seen them in the past try to do it over there. But, you know, some of their guys were talking about indoors, and they were saying, look, you can simulate some things indoors.
Yeah,
but not
it's not
everything.
The same.
So we'll see if this affects them. But that typically the weather here in Arkansas, when Arkansas plays a lot of other schools that don't have this weather, it affects them early. Now, we've had such bad weather all throughout the South that maybe all of these teams have had to deal with this, and maybe some of them may not have indoor facilities like Arkansas. So we'll see.
All right, again, Arkansas versus Texas Tech supposed to start up at 7 p.m. on flowbaseball.com, and we will have more on Zebulon Vermillion, by the way, in our show today at 6 o'clock. So if you want to see that, just be sure to tune in. But thanks for watching.